What are you at, boys? My name is Troy and welcome to Facility D20. So my D&D group is coming up on an epic sea battle and I wanted to have it along the coastline, so I'm going to go ahead and make a cliff face just to add another element to that battle map. So we're going to use some SM foam and let's get to it. So basically I needed about a 4-foot section to block off my table to ensure that the ship can't sail in that direction. That was the general idea between making this cliff face, is to add to that particular encounter. So I just cut it 4 feet using my foam cutter. Pretty useful tool for stuff like this. Trimmed off the excess with a carpet blade and stacked them too high. I figured that would get the job done. Then I used the foam cutter and the wire attachment to just carve in grooves and sections and natural breaks in the rock. Try to give it a little more of a ununiformed type look. So you can see here this hot wire cutter just kind of goes through this just like butter. It's pretty sweet actually. It's a great little tool if you're working with SM or any type of foam for that matter. Now if I had my time back, I probably wouldn't have made these so straight. I probably would have made them a little different. Probably would have had a lot more curves and a little bigger pieces, but I had to do this in a day or two. So I just stacked them too high and I glued them with some Elmer's white glue. Made sure I didn't spare it here, put it on pretty thick. And then I just pinned the 2 sections together with a couple of nails I had kicking around the shed. Once that was done, I went back at it again with the foam cutter just to kind of blend these 2 sections together. If I had my time back, I would have glued them together first, then cut them. You can use this method to make hills and valleys and cliffs and stuff like that. Works pretty well. I've done it before, but for this particular one I think I should have glued them together and then cut them. Then I decided to just fill it up full of some drywall plaster that I had lying around. So I just started to trowel all this plaster on here to try to make this surface look more jagged and rough looking. I just use my finger to kind of give it a bit of texture, make a few sharp edges to clean up the plaster a little bit. And it was looking pretty good at that point. So I let the plaster dry overnight, turned out okay. I think it's going to work out for this simple cliff face that I'm going to do. We'll go ahead and mix up some Mod Podge and some paint and give this thing a base coat so we can get dry brush and get some color on it. Let's see how it's going to turn out. So far so good. So basically I just mixed up some Mod Podge into an empty paint can that I had some old gray paint lying around in, and I just added a little bit of black and added about a half a can of Mod Podge and shook it up. Came to this like nice dark gray color, which is perfect for a base coat, especially for something like this. So I just applied this and I went pretty heavy with it. And the idea is the Mod Podge here is going to act as a protective coating so that the drywall plaster doesn't crack as easy. Kind of sticks it all together. Okay boys, the base coating's done. Don't know what I think of it yet, but I'm going to keep on doing it till it's done, see how it turns out. Going to do some dry brushing next, might put a bit of flock on it, see if I can't make this look more like a cliff face. So I just went in with a lighter gray, 4 or 5 shades lighter, and just give this a real heavy dry brush. You can see here how the plaster kind of looked over the foam. I think that this started to come to life when I hit it with this dry brush, and I started to feel a little better about how this project was going. Once that was done, I added a bit of Elmer's glue and decided that I was going to add some sand, just so that it could represent the top of the cliff. This brown paint, I've had this brown paint for at least over 10 years, and it's just been sitting in this tub and it's still kicking, it's still working. So It's kind of crazy that it's lasted that long. Once that was done, I mixed up my own wash. Using oil on something like this would be nuts. It would just be way too expensive. So I just mixed up some water, Windex, glaze medium, and a few drops of black acrylic paint. And it worked real well for a wash. You can see here how the stones really darkened down and added a lot of depth to the coloring. Then I just mixed up a bit of light beige paint over the top of these sandy bits to just give it a dry brush, just to add some contrasting color. Then I put a little bit of Elmer's glue on it and sprinkled on some flock. It was at this point that this was really coming to life. You can see here it looks kind of nice. I hit it with some satin varnish here, some matte or satin varnish, just to try to keep everything protect it and keep that grass from sticking down. And here you go, here are the end shots. There's a few rocks that I made as well, just to go along with this jagged cliff, and at the end of the day I think it'll serve its purpose here. Pretty happy with how it came out.